I would be disappointed, and I don't expect him to vacate, to be honest. I think Anthony is a guy who has built himself up very much on being a very good sportsman, and he rises to every challenge. It's also the first belt that he won as a pro, and those are normally the belts that you don't let go of. I would be very, very surprised if he didn't fight Pulev. Ultimately, the IBF will always decide themselves, and they are not like some federations where you can make step-aside deals, as it's called in boxing, where you are paid money to step aside. That's simply not possible with the IBF. So we have to find a solution where we can have a certain degree of security where the people who are fighting for the world title, if the request was to have that rematch, then obviously both guys would have to sign something to agree to fight Pulev on certain terms and conditions. Those are the words of one of the Sauerland brothers. Is it Kalle Sauerland, I believe it was. Yeah, those are the words of Kalle Sauerland, who is the promoter of IBF mandatory challenger Kubrat Pulev, talking about the situation there. He'd be very disappointed if Joshua decided to vacate, but he's also talking about there's no step aside option with the IBF, but then he's talking about something, a scenario which sounds like step aside. I don't get it. Or maybe Pulev gets to fight somebody else for the interim title or something. I don't know. There is no step aside situation with the IBF, so I don't know why. It's like, it's as if they say, okay, there's no step aside, but we're going to do something else, which is just like a step aside, but call it something different. I don't get it. Anyway, I'm going to quote Eddie Hearn now. He has a couple things to say about the situation as well. Eddie Hearn says, there's plenty of ongoing discussions right now regarding Anthony's next move. The more belts you accumulate, the more cluttered the situation becomes. It is our intention to navigate AJ to become the undisputed champion and capture every belt in the division. We certainly do not want to vacate belts, but we also want to make the best and biggest fights out there. We are working hard, and I expect some further news next week. So those are the words of Eddie Hearn. I don't know, man. I hope that Kalle Sauerland is correct and that Joshua don't vacate. And I hope that the IBF stick to their rules. I really do. I think they should enforce this mandatory. And Joshua should fight Pulev next. If you have mandatories, man, fight them. Otherwise, why are they called mandatories? You know? Those are just my thoughts. Now, there are other mandatories out there, for example, like Luis Ortiz. Would I rather see Joshua fight Luis Ortiz first? Yes. And this is why, like I said in another video, I'd like to see Anthony Joshua fight 3 times a year. He could fight twice more this year. He could fight Luis Ortiz and fight Kubrat Pulev. And then at least he's got his 2 mandatories out of the way. And next year he can fight whoever he likes. He can do unifications. He can do, you know, whatever the case may be. Or if the WBA are a bit more lenient than the IBF, and they seem to be, maybe he could, you know, pay Luis Ortiz step aside, fight Pulev next, then fight somebody else in the wintertime. A unification with Joseph Parker or Deontay Wilder if Wilder is still WBC champion at the time. So, I don't know. Again, I hope Kalle Sauerland is correct and Joshua don't vacate. We'll see. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. It's happening. I'm out.